Good evening or morning or whatever it is, everyone. This is Brian Neubert from goldenblack.com, live here in the pale moonlight of an empty Mackey Arena. For some of you, your Friday night is just ending. For some of you, your Friday night is probably just beginning. For some of you, the room and everything around you is currently spinning. For a few of you anyway. Regardless of whatever your circumstances might be, I appreciate you watching this, appreciate you joining us. This obviously is your goldenblack.com wrap video following Purdue's 92-67 win over Indiana State, improving the Boilermakers record to 2-0. Not surprisingly, I want to thank the Purdue Union Club Hotel and the 811 restaurant for their support of this little endeavor of ours. So big thank you to them. And 12 minutes, no more, no less. That's what we're doing. It's non-negotiable. No more than 12 minutes. All right. So I thought the big thing from this game, obviously, Purdue, Indiana State, not an even playing field. Not this year anyway, with as much as Purdue has going for it. I'm calling these first three games from here on out. There's a game against Wright State this week, too. Kind of batting practice for Purdue. I'm going to call it batting practice because I feel like this is kind of the warm-up, the Bellarmine game, Bellarmine game, this game tonight against Indiana State, and then Wright State. I'm going to call those three games batting practice because this is the warm-up. This is the warm-up for when it gets real, starting with North Carolina in Connecticut next weekend. So batting practice is now two-thirds of the way over, and I think what Game 2 really underscored is that this has the potential to be a really, really formidable offensive basketball team. I don't think I had to tell you that. I think you know. But I think, Purdue has two assets here in Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey who, again, there are reasonable scenarios where those two guys go from good freshmen to elite sophomores. And if that wasn't the case for Zach Edey, he would not be starting over a returning All-American right now. That tells you all you need to know about what might lie in store for him. When these two guys play at the level they played at today, or something close to it. Now, obviously, things get more difficult when Indiana State's not on the other side of the, on the other bench. When these two guys play at this level, Purdue is, really, really good. Especially at the offensive end, because you just have no answers for Zach Edey, and you have a really dynamic guard who, if he makes good decisions, I'm telling you, he can be one of the most influential players in college basketball. He can be a high-scoring guy. He can be a high-assist guy. He can just be that guy who just dominates the game simply with his decision-making. Carson Edwards was in a position like that a few years ago. I don't know if it was necessarily his thing to think beyond himself a lot of the time. Kind of what made him great was that singular focus on just putting the ball in the basket. Jaden Ivey, I think, is a little bit of a different deal. I think he's got a little bit of a natural facilitator deep down in there somewhere, just waiting to come out. And I think a common theme here among these two players, Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey, I think that can take Purdue from being a good offensive basketball team to being a great offensive basketball team is how those two guys weaponize the attention that they are going to command. I think that you've seen Jaden Ivey get assists in these first two games, just making the simplest passes you can possibly make in basketball. I thought it was a really emblematic play of what can make Purdue really scary offensively. Early on, it kicked off the 15-3 run here in the first half where Jaden Ivey and Sasha Stefanovic were in the same vicinity of one another. I don't know if that was by design or if that's just the way things happened. I'll have to go back and watch the film tomorrow to see if that was some action Purdue ran to do that. But Jaden Ivey was dribbling around the free throw line. He took a step toward the basket, toward the elbow. Stefanovic's guy had to come help down because the one guy can't stay in front of Ivey. And that allows Ivey to just throw a very, very simple little pass to Stefanovic, of all people, wide open because his guy helped off of him. Stefanovic is going to make that shot 7 times out of 10 probably. If Ivey makes that pass 10 times out of 10, that's a pretty good situation. You saw it in the first game too, where I thought Ivey, for as uneven as that game was for him, when all was said and done, I thought he got Purdue off to a great start just with his facilitating. I thought he got Purdue 3 great looks right off the bat because Bellarmine was obviously allocating a lot of attention to Jaden Ivey. And again, when that happens and it's 2-on-1, you're being guarded by 2 people, somebody's open. And typically they're on your side of the floor. They're right there. Oftentimes they're standing there like this. And on a team like this, all of those guys can make that shot too. So that's the power that Jaden Ivey is going to wield within this offense. Zach Edey, for as dominant as he is, for as much as I want to spell his first name Z-A-Q, because of the obvious comparison to Shaquille O'Neal in the way I'm not saying he's Shaquille O'Neal. Why do I say stuff like that? The way he kind of towers over opponents like this, it sort of reminds you of a Shaq sort of presence. He is going to command a lot of double teams. He is going to command a lot of people leaning off of their guys to come pay attention to him. What he did in the second half of this game, where when Indiana State started to double team him, he was able to hit Caleb first dive into the basket. That was the one thing last year that really I thought was his one Achilles heel, if there was one. As a freshman, I thought, he struggled at times dealing with double teams. Maybe his mind moved a little faster than his body could. Things like that. He got sped up. He got influenced by people converging on him. Didn't necessarily handle it as well as he could have. I think you're starting to see a player, albeit against Indiana State here. Excuse me. You're starting to see a player here, albeit against Indiana State, who is developing a little bit of that savvy, a little bit of what Travion Williams has always had, a little bit of what Caleb Swanigan had passing out of double teams, what Isaac Haas maybe had only at times when it was really right there for the taking, where the play just beat you over the head to the point you had no choice but to make it. If he's able to do that, if he's able to burn defenses paying extra attention to him with his passing, that is going to make him, borderline unstoppable. And I think that's just a really important overlying common denominator between those two really highly influential offensive players Purdue has, is that it's not just about scoring the basketball. It's not just about getting shots. It's about what you do to make people pay for what they're doing to try to stop you. And I thought tonight was a great example of what those two guys are capable of and how important that is going to be kind of moving forward. Again, all of this stuff applies by a factor of 10 when you're playing North Carolina, you're playing Villanova, you're playing Florida State especially. But what you see in games like this is that guys are thinking that way. And it sure looks to me like Jaden Ivey understands that he has this sort of power in his hands. It seems to me like Zach Edey has improved as a passer, as a thinker of the game, for a guy still with very, very little relative to his peers basketball experience. So all of this is a really, really positive thing for Purdue as an offensive basketball team. I think they're going to be a good enough shooting basketball team to, fill in that gap from last season. They got their way to 40% tonight. They were, I think, over 50 in the first game. They're not going to shoot 45% as a team this year, but they're not going to shoot 33 either. So, again, just lots going on for this team offensively. I think another really important element, we got 3 minutes. Another really important element of this season is kind of maturity. I think Purdue's got to handle expectations well. I think they have to handle the reality, the cliche that is real, that when you're a team as highly regarded as Purdue is, you are going to get the opponent's best shot every single night out. People just say that. You never know if it's true or not, because sometimes people just have to say something. But I do think there's probably going to be something to that for Purdue this year. They have to be mature enough to handle that, to bring their best every night, to handle the fact that they haven't played on the road again in a raucous environment yet. There's still so much this team hasn't been through. They're going to have to be mature about a lot of different things. And one thing that I kind of noticed in this game, and you noticed it too if you watched this thing, was that there was a stretch in the second half after Purdue was up like 30 or whatever, where they were just awful. They turned the ball over on like 7 of 8 possessions or something like that, and just really got casual. And look, I'm not gonna, that's the ultimate nitpicking, because they were up by 30, and Indiana State almost cut the lead in half, but it's not like they ever threatened to win the game. So even talking about this is kind of silly. But I have to talk about something, so I got 2 more minutes. So I don't know if that's anything that you want to look at as something that kind of doesn't jibe with maturity or whatever, but I just think somebody should point out the fact that there was that stretch in the second half where things were really ugly for Purdue, playing with a big lead. And I think if you're that way when you're up by 30 against Indiana State, you want to make damn certain you're not that way when you're up 15 at Iowa or at Rutgers or something like that, and you let that thing get away because you got a little casual or whatever. Just mentioning it just as a, maybe a little bit of, maybe not a red flag, maybe a pink flag, maybe a white sock that got put in the washing machine with a white shirt that got put in the washing machine with a red sock. I tried to pull that off, but it's 12:30 in the morning and I'm a little bit tired. So that's what I got on the whole maturity thing. I had one more thing written down here, but I've only got 20 more seconds, and I can't find my damn notes anyway. I like Purdue's energy at the end of the first half. I thought there was a stretch there where, even though Purdue had opened up a double-digit lead, I thought there was a situation there where it was an absolute onslaught on the offensive glass. I thought Travion Williams played with a very distinct energy, and I thought he was better than his line for this game suggests, and he really got them going during that stretch in the end of the first half where Purdue was just all over the offensive glass. Caleb first. But, by the way, Zach Edey and those double teams, 12:03. I'm in bonus time here in soccer terms or whatever they call it. If Zach Edey is able to consistently burn double teams the way he did in that first half, Caleb first is going to average 8 points a game without even trying, because that's typically who people double off to double the 5. They double off the 4. And when you're the 4, your mission statement is, when they double off you, go right to the rim. You remember the game at Marquette a few years back where Isaac Haas was basically handing assists to Grady Eifert the whole second half? That. So, anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I had that written down and wanted to make sure I got all my notes, all 11 words of them. So, all right, look, I'm over. I went over a minute. Sue me. Thanks, everybody, for paying attention to this. I know it's the middle of the night. It's Sunday, actually, right now, but want to thank once again the Purdue Union Club Hotel and the 811 Restaurant, as always. So, once again, from Purdue's 92-67 win over Indiana State. This is Brian Neubert from goldenblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, not your materials. Thank you for processing our material. Thank you for processing our materials. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And I'm the one who made the joke about some of you being drunk. Look at me. Thanks, everybody.